Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Joe.
We're on our TOEIC unit. This is day 1, and we're going to be taking a tour. It's called an open house tour. Tell me, Joe, have you ever gone house hunting or house shopping?
Not to buy, no. I rent, like a lot of people in Taipei, because, houses are very, very expensive.
I know.
In a lot of major cities, not just in Taipei, in major cities around the world, housing prices are just skyrocketing.
Yes.
But I have, when I was a kid, I remember when my family, when my brother and I were going to move with our parents, we would go to open houses to look around and decide if we liked the place, if it would suit our family, if it was big enough, if it had all the stuff we needed. So I've been to open houses before, just not to buy for myself.
Yeah. I have several people in my family and one of my friends who are real estate agents. And if you have an open house, it means someone wants to sell their house and they clean it up. They're not living in it currently, and they let people walk through and check it out. Potential buyers, you could say, they're looking around to see if they like what they see. And if they do, they might put a bid in, which is a price they're willing to pay for the house. We're going to take a look at this. Real estate is very popular here in Taiwan, too. People like to buy and sell property because you can make a profit usually. But I'm with Joe. The price of housing here is really crazy high. I think it's actually even higher than New York based on what we make in salary. So let's get started, guys. We've got a conversation between Julia, I'm going to be Julia, and Matt, and Joe will be Matt. Hello, welcome to the open house tour. My name's Julia, and you can ask me any questions you have about the property.
Thanks. I guess I'll just start by looking around, but before I do, can you tell me whether the owner currently resides here?
No. The owner has been leasing this property to tenants for several years, but has recently decided to sell.
So, is all the furniture on display today part of the sale?
That's correct. All the fixtures and appliances in the kitchen and the bathroom are relatively new. They were fitted when the house was renovated last year.
I see. Is it okay if I move some of the furniture around?
Be my guest. Please excuse me for a few minutes. Another prospective buyer would like to ask me something.
Hello again. I would like some further information.
Of course. What would you like to know?
Can you tell me a little about the neighborhood?
Well, there are several good schools nearby, as well as plenty of stores and restaurants.
How about the neighbors?
There's an elderly couple on the left of this house, and the house on the right belongs to a marketing executive with a young family.
Got it. I'd like to take a closer look at the yard and the garage, please.
No problem. Please follow me.
All right, so let's get into our conversation now. This is an open house tour, and as Stephanie said, open house just means that somebody who wants to sell their home opens their home to the public. So people can come in and, just like in our conversation today, they can have a look around and decide whether they might want to buy that home. They might want to put an offer or put a bid, as Stephanie said, on the house. We start off with Julia. Julia welcomes Matt to the house. She says, hello, welcome to the open house tour. Yes, when you go to an open house, you're not just walking in by yourself to take a look around. There will be a real estate agent there. This is the professional who is going to try to sell the home. They're going to tell you all the wonderful things about it and why this is the home for you and why you should put an offer on it. Her name is Julia, and she says, you can ask me any questions you have about the property. Property just refers to land or homes, apartments, these places where you can live, or it can be like something like a warehouse or a place of business. It's just real estate. It's something you can buy so you can live there or do business there.
Right. Well, Matt is the one who's there looking around. And he says, thanks, I guess I'll just start by looking around. But before he does start looking around, he has a question, and he asks Julia whether she can tell him if the owner currently resides there. If you reside someplace, you live there. So what he's asking is there anybody living in the house right now? In particular, he wants to know if the owner is living there. Most of the open houses I've been to, the owners have already moved out. Maybe they have moved into a new home and they just haven't been able to sell the house yet. I don't know. But usually the owner's no longer there. But that's not always the case. An owner can still live there and have an open house.
Yeah, we had open houses like in our own home when I was a kid.
Oh, there you go.
And we hadn't moved out yet. So it was annoying because we had to keep the house really clean.
I know.
And we couldn't make a mess.
I know.
And then we just had to leave for a while because, it's weird if the people coming to look at your house and possibly wanting to buy it, if you're like sitting on the couch watching TV or there, it's weird for them.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder for the real estate agents to do their job. So they actually ask you politely if you will go outside
Get
for
lost.
a little while. Yeah, just to go away for a little while.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I really didn't like that because, this was still my house for now. And I just wanted to do all the things that I usually did, but we had to keep it really clean. And we had to leave once in a while so they could sell the house.
Houses tend to sell better if you can have open houses with furniture in them. So that's why it's actually better if you can have open houses before you sell your house. Yeah, that would be annoying to have to leave. Now, the owner doesn't currently reside there. She says the owner has been leasing this property to tenants for several years. Leasing is another word for rent, but we often use leasing when the rental agreement is more long-term. We often use it to talk about renting very expensive cars. Maybe your company leases company cars for you to drive if you're a salesperson in particular. They'll have a 3-year leasing agreement. And then once that 3-year contract is up or done, is expired, then they'll just get a new car. So here she says, no, the owner's not living here. He's been renting or leasing this property to tenants. A tenant is someone who lives in a rented property. And now the owner just wants to sell it. That's what I do. I rent my apartment and I'm always worried that my owner is going to want to sell the apartment, so I'll have to move.
That's right. Another word for the owner would be the landlord. So the landlord is the person who owns the property. The tenant is the person who will rent from the owner or landlord. Matt has another question. Yes, it is very useful to ask as many questions as you can if you're going to buy a house because it's such a big investment.
Yes.
Matt says, so, is all the furniture on display today part of the sale? Furniture are all the things that are around a house, like tables, chairs, desks, dressers. All those things are examples of furniture. And he says they're on display. If something's on display, it just means it's put out so people can see it. So he's wondering if all that furniture that's in the house, is it included in the sale? Sometimes it will be included, but like in the case of my family, like I was talking about before, where we hadn't moved out yet, that furniture was still our furniture.
Yeah.
We were going to take it with us. So it was not included in the sale. But as Stephanie was saying, it is easier to sell houses if the furniture is there because people can come in and it looks like a home. It looks like a place they can picture living because, there's a couch and a TV. I can picture myself sitting there relaxing, watching the football game on Sunday. If you just come into an empty house with no furniture, it looks abandoned or it might look kind of creepy, like people just had to leave for some weird reason.
Yeah. So
if the furniture is there on display, yes, it makes it look more homely. It makes it look more lived in. It looks warmer, so it's easier to sell.
It is. That's so true. Now, Julia says that's correct when he asks, is all the furniture that I can see or that's on display part of the sale? Well, in this case, the owner does want to sell all the furniture. And she says all the fixtures and appliances in the kitchen and the bathroom are relatively new. Fixtures include things like taps that we use to turn water off and on. Those are fixtures. We often refer to the lights as a light fixture. So they're things that are put into the house that aren't easily just taken out. You have to actually kind of, do something difficult to take fixtures out of a house. So fixtures, appliances refer to refrigerators, ovens, stoves,
dishwashers.
Big things. Washing machine, dryers, the big sort of equipment that we use to live.
So all these things are relatively new. She says relatively here just means in comparison to something else. So it may be in comparison to, say, other properties nearby.
Yeah.
They're newer than those properties, than those things, those fixtures and appliances. So she's saying, well, they're quite new. Real estate agents will often use kind of vague terms like this sometimes when they don't exactly want to say how old or how new something is.
Yeah, true.
She's saying they were fitted when the house was renovated last year. Okay, so they are quite new, though. Fitted here is a word we use when we're referring to fixtures. It just means when they were installed or when they were put in. And she says the house was renovated last year. Renovated means that you are fixing something up. You are improving it, putting in things that are newer or better. People often renovate their homes. I notice this happens a lot in Taiwan.
Oh, yes.
People renovate their apartments very, very often. With the coming of spring, we hear the jackhammers and all the machines, the repairmen.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the sound of spring in the city in Taiwan because people are renovating their apartments. They're getting all new stuff and making their apartments pretty and beautiful and new.
Yeah, I live in an apartment building that has, 14 floors. And they're always doing some sort of renovation on an apartment, which is noisy and loud. Well, Matt says he understands what she's saying about the fixtures and the appliances. He says, is it okay if I move some of the furniture around? I thought that was an interesting request. She says, be my guest. If someone responds to a request that you make with be my guest, it means yes, go ahead. That's fine. So he's welcome to move the furniture around. She also says, please excuse me for a few minutes. Another prospective buyer would like to ask me something. If you're a prospective buyer, it means you have the potential of becoming someone who buys something. So it's not a person who has already decided to buy the house. They're thinking about it, and they might decide to buy the house. So prospective just means expected or maybe going to be something in the future, likely to become a buyer, perhaps.
Now, some time passes here, and later, Matt comes back to Julia. He says, hello again. I would like some further information. Further here just means in addition to. It means more, in other words. So another way to say this would be like, I would like more information. Or we could say, I would like some further information. Julia, being the professional that she is, she says, of course. What would you like to know? Now, when you move into a house, if you're going to buy a house, you don't only want to know about the property. You want to ask some questions about the surrounding area as well. Usually if you're buying your first house, maybe it means that you're going to have a family. You might be having kids, that kind of thing. So you want to know what's around you, and what's around you is the neighborhood. That's all the houses that's around there, the businesses, the schools. Those things all make up a neighborhood, which is an area of a town or city.
Yeah, those are really important things. I think if I ever buy an apartment, the first question I'll ask is, who's living above me? Because currently I rent an apartment, and the man and women who live above me, the wife is fine, but the man is noisy. So it makes a difference between whether you're going to be happy somewhere or unhappy. There are good schools nearby, she says, plenty of stores and restaurants. Those are all very important things if you're thinking about buying. But you also want to know about the neighbors, which is what I just finished talking about. Your neighbors are so important. Oh, my goodness. They've got an elderly couple on the left of this house. Usually if they're elderly couples, they're kind of quiet, typically. And the other neighbors on the other side of the house, they're actually a young family where the dad, it says, is a marketing executive. So sounds like it's a pretty good area, good neighbors. Sounds like it's stable. You don't want to move into a neighborhood where there are drug dealers on your street. When I first moved to Manhattan, the first day I was living there were a lot of police on my street arresting several men who were selling illegal drugs. So you got to make sure you're living in a good neighborhood.
Welcome to the neighborhood. And you meet all the local police.
Yeah, no.
And on a first-name basis with all of them.
It's true.
Well, Matt says, got it. I'd like to take a closer look at the yard and the garage, please. So this house has a yard. Maybe it has a front yard. Maybe it also has a backyard. That's the area of grass that will be in the front or back of a house. There might be trees or plants, maybe a garden, those kinds of things. Those are all part of the yard. The garage is the place where you will park your car or your truck or any sorts of vehicles. You can put your bicycles in there. My dad, he'd have all his tools for fixing up the house out there. He had his motorcycle in there. It's the man cave, in other words. It's the place.
Explain the man cave.
Man cave is a place where Dad goes to be alone and watches sports and just get away and escape for a little while. That's a man cave. They used to call it the study in the old days. It's a place where they would have their books and things like that. Nowadays, it's a place where men go to do manly things. Now, garage, women, of course, can go in there, and women can do anything as well. But I'm just being a little bit funny there.
Yeah.
Julia says, no problem. Please follow me. So she's being very accommodating. They're going to go look at the yard and the garage as well.
Okay, guys, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back to talk about some dialogues and, of course, our extra discussion question.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们看的是第7单元。好，我们要看多益的对话和文章开头。这个对话内容，它的主题跟卖房子有关。我们看到它标题写着 An Open House Tour， 意思就是房屋呢开放给大家参观，带着你看房子。这边的对话里头有2位主角，一位是 Julia， 一位是 Matt。Julia 呢，她是这个卖房地产的经纪人，然后呢，这位上门来看房子的人就是 Matt。好，我们先看对话内容，提到了 Julia 说有关房地产的问题都可以问我。我们先看到这个单字Property 这个字要注意，这边是谈 real estate， 也就是房地产。不过 property 这个字当财产，它本身是不可数名词。好，请记得。再来，我们看下面 Matt 他要问的第一个问题，就说屋主目前是否住在这边。好，我们先看到这个地方 weather， 知道 weather 它是一个连接词，而这个 weather 意思当然是是否。它如果后面再接一个子句的话，有时候你会看到它是整个子句摆在句首，有时候你会放在后面当动词的受词用，所以主词跟受词的用法都有可能。在这边来说 Can you tell me whether the owner currently resides here？ 这个地方当然是当作 tell 后面的受词来用。好，告诉我什么事情，告诉我屋主是否现在住在这儿。好，再来往下，他说没有啊，因为这位屋主他实际上是把房地产一直租给别人，最近才决定要卖的。好，所以呢，他接下来就要问下一个问题了。下一个问题是说有关于 furniture 家具的部分，那卖房子包不包括家具呢？我们先看一下这个地方Furniture 这个字也很有意思，因为 furniture 我们用起来，如果在中文的观念里面可能会觉得家具有很多种不同的家具啊，沙发是家具，桌椅是家具，那这个好像是可数名词，可是大家一定要注意Furniture 在英文里面，它本身这个字的用法是一个集合性的名词，所以说整个来看 家具并不是分开来看的，它算是不可数的，应该要用单数型。这也是为什么这句话你看到它是写 Is all the furniture on display today part of the sale？ 这个地方的 is be 动词就显得格外重要。好，我们再来往下看，那提到说所谓的 fixtures、appliances 固定的设备啦，厨房或者是浴室里的电器啦，通通都更新了是去年翻新的时候才安装的呢。好，我们来看这个动词 fit 这个字我们用到了过去分词，因为这里是被动，它可以当安装来解释。 So they were fitted 就有点像我们另外一个动词install 一样。再往下面呢还有一个地方我们要了解，在对话内容里面呢，他说这个家具的部分他了解了，那他又问了下一个问题，可不可以我把这个家具四处移一移，这样好吗？这里有一个句构跟 if 连在一起想就是这里它是摆在一个副词位置上，表示说如果这样做可不可以？好，我们知道 if 的条件句，如果说它是当作如果，那就是一个副词性的子句了。那 whether 其实也一样。好，我们再来往下面呢，最后他就说 OK， 请就这样做吧， Be my guest， 中文说请便。好，那我们来看看后面这里还有一个句子他说 Another prospective buyer would like to ask me something. Prospective 这个字放在这个 buyer 的前面，就表示说很有可能要来买房子的人，这是有潜力的、有前景的，这个形容词请特别注意。最后呢，我们再来看对话接近结束的地方，他呢提到想要知道邻近的地方附近的状况如何，然后 Julia 就说这个房子它的左侧呢住的是一位年长的夫妇，右侧呢则是一个行销经理的房子，然后小孩子还小。好，我们来看英文里面谈到左边谈到右边，我们想说 on the left on the right。 好，有关方向的说法请特別注意。我們今天的講解就到這邊結束。
Okay, welcome back, guys. We're going to go through the extra dialogues one at a time and then discuss them. For the first one, Joe, I'll be A, you can be B.
All right.
Okay. Can you tell me when the air conditioning was last serviced?
The owner will have it serviced before anyone moves in.
Notice here we're using service as a verb, which means somebody comes into your apartment and actually makes sure that something's working well. I just had this happen to me in my real life. My air conditioner broke. Even though I'd had it serviced in June, it broke and it died, which means they couldn't service it again. I had to get a new air conditioner.Which made my landlord not happy and my rent went up in price. So that's what service here means. Make sure that you find out if some of the big appliances that you're moving into a house or an apartment are working, if they've been serviced, things like that.
And make sure they have documents, too, to prove it. Because they can say, oh, yeah, it was serviced last week. Yeah, everything's fine. No problems.
Yeah.
But make sure you have a look at all that stuff. You have to be very careful.With that sort of thing.
You know, it's not bad to ask for proof, like Joe suggests. You just want to make sure you're not walking into a bad situation. Okay, Joe, you want to be A?
I'll be A.
Okay.
The next dialogue starts off by saying, have you had any bids for this property yet?Yes,
the owner has received 2 formal offers. Now, I know when we were explaining the conversation earlier, Joe mentioned that you can either use bid, which I had talked about before, or offer. If you put an offer on a home or you have an offer for a house, it just means that's the amount of money you're willing to pay. Sometimes there are several people who are interested in buying a home. So you hope that your bid or offer is the highest. Sometimes you have to offer to pay more just because there were other people interested and you want to beat their price. You want to outbid them.
That's right. There will be the asking price. That's what the owners of the home would want. And sometimes they get their asking price. Sometimes the bid will be lower than that.
A little lower, yeah.
And sometimes, especially if you live in somewhere like Vancouver or Taipei, the bid will be above even the asking price.
Yeah.
There will be what we call a bidding war for a home where people just keep going up and up and up with the amount of money that they will offer for the house.
Oh, I'd love to be the owner of one of those houses. Okay, here's the third one. I'll be A. Have you thought about making an offer?
I'm looking at some other properties, but I like this one. I'll be in touch.
Right. So if you go to an open house, the real estate agent may actually ask you this question. Have you thought about making an offer as you perhaps get ready to leave? But if you're not really sold on the house, if you're sold on something, it means you're convinced you like it. You know, no one has to tell you it's great. You can see that you like it. You're sold on something. If you like a property, you might go ahead and put an offer in or put a bid in. But if you're not really happy with everything, continue to look around. You might find something you like a lot better.
That's right. And it also helps to, play it cool, as we say in these situations. You don't want to say, yes, I love this house. Oh, my God, I'll give you all my money. You want to say, no, it looks okay. I'll be in touch. You don't want to sound over-eager or too enthusiastic because then they know they've got you and they can get so much money out of you.
Oh, that's a bad thing. Okay, here's our discussion question. I'll ask first, Joe, and if I have anything, I'll add. So apart from the price, what should you consider when you buy a house?
Well, I think you should consider the future, your plans for the future. As I said, are you thinking of starting a family? Because then you will need more space later on than if it's just going to be you or perhaps you and your partner, your husband and your wife. You're going to need more rooms and things like that. So think about what you're going to need in the future because you don't want to be buying a house, moving in, getting settled, and then having to do it all over again a short time later because moving is a pain.
Oh, moving is awful. I try to avoid moving as much as possible. That's good advice. I think this is really interesting, and it's something that everybody has to go through. As you get older and you become an adult, you have to have an apartment or a house. Hopefully, everybody out there who wants to buy an apartment can still do that someday. It's my dream. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford it. We'll see. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. For more TOEIC help, please join us for our upcoming program. We're going to be talking about a handy guide to house hunting. That's if you tune in next time. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Joe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.